Take it slow, where you go, I go too. And if you hit the bottom, I'm going down with you. Let's take it slow, who cares where we gotta be, you know.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video we'll be making this corset top that you can see on your screen. So I already have my pattern paper. I'm going to draft it on my pattern paper first. So the first thing I do was to roll my guideline. So that's the line I'm going to follow to take my measurements. So I'll go ahead and take the distance from my shoulder to my bust, which is 10 inches, and the distance from my shoulder to my under bust, and the distance from my shoulder to the length of my top. So I have 10 inches, which is my bust point, 13 inches, which is my under bust point, and 18 inches, which is the length of my top. So for me to get my chest line, I'm going to go up from my bust point by 2 inches, and I'll roll a straight line across. So I have my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my top length. So the next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches. I'm doing that on my guideline, as you can see. And on my bust line, I'll also make sure I have the 8 inches that I have on my guideline. So I'll connect both points together with a straight line. So what I'll do is to come down by half an inch from my shoulder point, from my shoulder slope. So I'll slant like this into my neckline. The next thing I'll do is to take my neckline measurements. So I'm going to take 4 inches for the width, and I'll take 4 inches for the depth, and I'll connect with my ruler. So on my armhole area, this straight line that I have here, I'm going to divide it by 2. What I have is 8 inches. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches. I'm going to indicate that with a point, and on that 8 inches I'll come inward like this by half an inch. I'll also indicate that with a point. On my chest line, I'll take my bust circumference divided by 2, and I'm going to place that like this. I'll indicate it also with a point. So the next thing I'll do is to curve out my armhole. So I'll curve from this point to meet the half an inch and to meet the upper area like this. So if you don't understand, just look at what I am doing. So this is my front armhole. This is what it looks like. So the next thing I'll do is to take my bust pan measurement, which is my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I'll take that on my bust point, on my under bust point, and on the length of my top. I'll connect the dots that I have there into a straight line. What I'll do next is to measure the distance from my bust line to my under bust, and what I have is 3 inches. So I'll place my tape on my nipple point on the bust line, and I'll use that 3 inches to form a circle around. So when you make a corset, this circle is very important. So I'm just going to place my tape on that nipple point. I'll make sure it's there. I'll make sure and the tape does not move from that point, and I'll form my circle all the way around, just like you see me doing. So I'm done forming my circle, and this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to measure my shoulder line. What I have left on the shoulder line is 4 inches, I think. Whatever you have there, just divide it by 2. So I'll indicate the middle point like this. So what I'll do is to take my ruler and connect from that middle point to meet my bust point, that straight line on my bust point like this. So what I'll do now is to take in my darts. On my waistline, I'll come out by 3/4 inch. I'll take 3/4 inch on the other side also, and on the under bust line I'll do the same thing, and I'll connect everything into a straight line with my ruler. On my center front, I'll come down from my chest line by 1/2 inch, and then I'll go inward from the center front by 1/2 inch, and then I'll connect both dots together. I'll place my tape on my under bust line just like you see me doing, between the darts that I have there, and what I have in between the darts is almost 2 inches, so I'll just make it 2 inches. So I'm going to divide the 2 inches for the center front and for my side front. So I'll take 3/4 inch for the center front, and what I have left is what I'll take for my side front. So I have 2 inches. I'm not going to divide it into two equal parts. I'll take 3/4 inch for the center front, and I'll take the rest for the side front. So I'll place my tape on the circle like this, and I'll mark out 3/4 inch on this side. On the other side, I'll mark out what is left of the 2 inches. So in order for me to know what I'm doing, I'll take out the 3/4 inch just like you see me doing, and I'll mark my 2 inches. So watch me closely and you understand what I'm doing. So this is what I have. On my bust points, I'll come down by 1 inch, and I'll connect from these two dots to meet the 1 inch, and I'll connect from my under bust to also meet the 1 inch. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, just look at what I am doing. So I'll just go ahead and blend this middle part together with my ruler just like this. So I'll use my ruler to curve from this center front to meet the dart line on this end. So if you have a French curve, you can go ahead and use it. This is the ruler I have. It's not really giving me what I want, so I'll connect from the center front also to meet my under bust. On the armhole area, this small part that I have here, I will measure it and divide it by 2. On that point there, I'll come down by 1/2 inch from that point just like you see me doing, and then I'll straighten the line. I'll rule a straight line across that dot that I just made. So this is going to serve as our new armhole. So I'll curve from the dart on the upper bust area to meet the new armhole like this, and then I'll connect from that point to meet my under butt line like this. So we have successfully created our cup. What I'll do next is to start placing my measurements. So on my bust line, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll measure my dart, I'll replace it, and then I'll add 2 inches for stitching allowance. On my waistline, I'll measure my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll place that, I'll measure my dart, I'll replace it, and I'll add 2 inches for stitching allowance, and then I'll go ahead and connect my points together. So this is what I have, and I'm going to label it 1 2 so that I'll not get confused, my center front and my side front, and then I'll go ahead and cut. So watch me and see where I'm cutting so you don't go and mess up your pattern paper. And yeah, this is all we have to do for the front part of our corset top. So for the back part of this top, I already have a fresh pattern paper. I'll be cutting this in the most simplest way that I know. I don't want to draft another basic bodice again. So what I'll do is to take my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. I'll roll a straight line on it. So this is my zip allowance. So what I'll do next is to place my center front on that line like you see me doing. I'll make sure that the length of the new pattern paper and the length of my center front is sitting on the same place. So before I place my side front, I'll take my dart of 1 inch. I'll just measure 1 inch from the center front, and then I'll place my side front like this, and I'll also pin it down. So I'm going to use the 1 inch that is left there to take in my dart. So I'll go ahead and pin this down, and then I'll trace out what I have on the new pattern paper. I'll trace out the sides, and yeah, I'll just trace out this part a little bit to know where it stops, and then I'll remove my center front and my side front. This is what I have. What I'll do next is to come down from my center back by 1 inch. If you want it to be straight, you can leave it, but then I want mine to be a little bit curvy, so I'll use my ruler to give it a little curve. And the next thing I'll do is to take in my dart with the 1 inch that I left. So I'll go ahead and adjust my zipper area. On this end, I'll come in by 1 inch, and then I'll slant like this to meet the upper part of the top. I'll extend my neckline and I'll go ahead and cut. So for my dart, I'll open one part and I'll use the other part to cover it up like this. That way I've already taken my darts. I won't be cutting out two piece of fabric. If I'm cutting, I'm just going to cut out one because I've already taken my darts. I hope that you understand. So yeah, this is what we have for the back part of our top. And yeah, this brings us to the end of the pattern drafting tutorial. I'm going to place all these pieces that you can see on my work table on my fabric, and then I'm going to cut everything out. So yeah, let's get started with the sewing part of this video. So these are all my fabric. I already cut them, and you can see that I added allowance to all my fabrics. So this is the back, and you can see that I added allowance to all the sides. I have two lining piece for the back, and I have two of the main piece. And yeah, make sure you put your allowance, you add your allowance so you don't run short of fabric. This is my side front. I increased the side front by 4 inches. I have two pieces of lining for the side front, and I also have two piece of the main piece. This is my center front. Don't forget to cut your center front on fold, and don't forget to also add your allowance. I also increased the center front by 4 inches, same thing I did for the side front. And these are my cups. So I went ahead to cut out my wadding. I'm going to use the wadding as my cup, since I don't have a ready-made cup. I have two of it each. I also have two lining piece and two of the main piece for the cup, and that's what I also have for the other cup. And don't forget to add your allowance to it. So what I'll do, in order for me not to get confused, I'm going to take one of my cup like this. I'll take the other one, placing them right sides together like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin, and I'll go sew. I'll repeat the same thing for the rest of the cups, the lining piece, and also for my wadding. So for the wadding, I'll just place one on the other one, and I'll just use my gather stitch to sew on a straight line. So after sewing, this is what I have. This is how I sewed my wadding in place, and I'm going to use it for my cup. These are also my lining piece. So what I'll do is to use my pattern paper to know which is number 1 and which is number 2. It is very important to know which goes where, so you don't go and put the wrong cup in the wrong place. It will just make your cup come out really flat. So I know where number 1 is, and I know where number 2 is. I know which is going to my left hand side and which is going to my right hand side. Is very important. So keep your pattern paper very close so that you know which goes where. After doing that, I'm going to use my tailor's arm to iron my cup in place. So make sure that the shiny part of the wadding is where you are going to use your fabric to cover, so that when you iron it in place, it sticks. So I'm going to just iron it like this, and as you can see, the wadding has stick to the my fabric, so it's not going to remove. So this is what I have after ironing my cup in place. So I'm going to keep this aside and I'll work on the other parts of the top. So this is my center front and my side front. What I'll do is to open up my center front like this, and I'll place my side front on it like this, right sides facing each other, and then I'll go sew on a straight line. So whatever you do for the main fabric, go ahead and do the same thing for your lining. I'll pin my lining in place just like I did to my fabric, and I'll go sew. What I'll do next is to shape the front part of this top. So the top we are following as a U shape. I'll fold my fabric into 2 equal parts like this, and I'll go up from the base of the top by 4 inches. So I'll try to curve like this to make a U shape, just like you see me doing, and then I'll go ahead and cut this part out. And I'll do the same thing for the lining. Don't forget, whatever you do for the main piece, go ahead and do it for the lining piece also. So I'll place the my main fabric on the lining piece, and I'll trace out what I have. So once I open it up, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to create my boning casing. So I'll use my bias like this to work my way around it. So figure out where you want to create your boning casing. I'll put one in the middle, and I'll put other ones underneath my cup. However you want to do it, just go ahead and do it. I've gone ahead to do that. So I'm going to join my cup to my main fabric. So I'll still use my pattern paper. With the help of my pattern paper, I'll go ahead and find out which cup goes where. So I'll go ahead and I'll start pinning like this all the way around. So take your time to do it. By the time you are done, if you pinned it well, there won't be any excess at the upper area. So just take your time and do this, and your cup is going to come out really nice. So I'm done pinning. What I'll do is to go ahead and sew all the way around. So the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and work on my back. So I'm going to place my back on my front piece, right sides facing each other like this, and then I'll use my basic measurement, that's my bust measurement and my waist measurement, to join the back and the front piece together. And I'll also shape the front piece to meet up with the back. I don't know how to explain it, but just watch what I am doing, and then I'll go sew after doing that. After sewing the front and the back piece together, this is what I have. So what I'll do next is to sew my lining. Remember I said whatever you do for the main fabric, you do for the lining piece. Before you do this, if you have a boning and you want to add a boning to this is the right time to do it. Add your boning before you sew your lining to your main fabric. I'm not adding a boning to mine, so I'll just go ahead and sew my lining piece to the main fabric. I'm going to place my lining on my main fabric like this, right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to pin all the way around. So I'll pin just the upper area. I'll go sew on a straight line, and then I'll top stitch towards the lining. So I've gone ahead to sew and I've also top stitched, as you can see. So once I turn it over, you can see how it looks on the right side, and the lining is not showing on the right side, everything is inside. So I'll turn it over like this to the wrong side, and I'll pin all the other areas all the way around. Once I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead and open the side seam up with about 2 inches. I'll use the opening to turn everything inside out when I'm done sewing. So I've gone ahead to sew, and I've also given it a notch all the way around. What I'll do is to turn it over with the 2 inches that I left on the side seam. So I'll go ahead and sew the opening close. So the next thing I'll do is to sew my zip to the back of the top, and yeah, after doing that, this is what I have. And yeah, the last thing I'll do is to create my sleeve for this top. And this is my remaining fabric. The length of the fabric is 10 inches. I'm going to split it into two. The fabric is folded into two. I'll split it into two like this, and then I'll fold in half an inch on the base and on the upper part for the both sleeve, and I'll go ahead and add my elastic band to it. This is very easy. I know that you guys can do it. So after doing that, this is what I have. I left a very small opening on the upper part of the sleeve. I'm just going to pin the opening to the armhole area of my top, and then I'll just go sew. This is very easy. So I just went ahead to give it a good press, and yeah, this is the end of the tutorial, and this is the outcome of the top. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.